Here we go. This is so much fun. I love doing this. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Sohmalife Sundays. My name is Reverend Lynn LaBorde, and I'm here with some of my favorite people. I think I have to change the screen over here so we can see this view, so I can have you up here with me. Okay, here we go. Hey, everybody. Oh my God. Yay. All right, these are some of my favorite people. So this is Rob Scarpa, who is my partner in this venture. And then Miriam, Michele, and JoAnn and Emily are here with us. Hi, Emily. Hi, JoAnn. Hi, Michele. Sohmalife Sunday was born of a conversation that Rob and I had several months ago where he said, I want to start doing like a show on Zoom and Facebook. Would you do it with me? And I was like, oh my God, I'd love to. Rob's one of my favorite people. And I'm going to talk about some of the past lives that we've had and the kind of crazy, beautiful soul connection that we have today. And so we started this almost 2 months ago now. Rob, this is our seventh adventure doing
Is it
this.
already? Seventh night? Wow.
Yeah. So we had a guest who was scheduled for today, and she's actually out with her grandson in California at a pumpkin patch. So we'll have her come and visit with us another time. But I have another precious guest. Miriam is going to come talk with us later on today about an experience that she's had recently that's altering her life and changing mine, because I just got to meet the collective of beings that she's just recently started channeling. So it's pretty extraordinary. Rob is an extraordinary channel. His channeling gift is done through automatic writing. He, I'll let him tell the story. My channeling, I'm a psychic, a medium, and a full body trance channel. And in 1996, I had a Kundalini experience during a Reiki class, and Hathor, the Egyptian goddess of women, came through, and it changed me forever. It opened me up to a whole world that I had no idea really existed. And so I channel Hathor, I channel Pallas Athena, the daughter of Zeus, I channel Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Archangel Michael. Most recently, I've been channeling Yeshua. And I was trained by an extraordinary woman by the name of Wendy Gale, who's going to be one of our guests coming up soon. And Wendy channels Archangel Metatron. And one of the things that she said is that actually Metatron said it. He said that channeling is a shortcut to spiritual transformation. And I know that my life has never been the same since that experience back in 1996. And it just keeps getting, better and wilder and, just really amazing. So with that, Rob, would you please introduce yourself and tell everyone about your experience and how all this came about and what made you want to do it?
Oh boy, how did it all come about? Oh, I like to be able to truncate it after 7 weeks. I guess about 5 years ago, I started to have experiences, premonitions primarily. Met with a few psychics, started to ask questions, and then I was guided to a weekly group. And from there, I started to learn about meditation because I'd never meditated before. And I just started to do guided meditations in the beginning. And then I met with this group and I was sat in real life, real one-on-one meditation with no oming. There was no oming in the beginning. And from there, I primarily started on an education with Saint Germain. And I started to learn about Saint Germain and the Great White Brotherhood and the galactic beings, Pleiadians, councils, and the violet consuming flame, the color of transmutation. And from there, it expanded into the age of Aquarius, which is what we're entering into now. We've been phasing into it for the last 8 years, give or take. And the more classes I took, automatic writing and tapping and light language, and I don't know, there's quite a few classes, right, Lynn? Reiki classes, and you name it, I've tried a lot of them. Card reading, and I took a channeling class, and that opened up my abilities to receive messages and start doing automatic writing. And I was just nudged to write and just write messages.
It was a homework assignment that you had.
that started it, and I had to write messages for each person in the class, and that started me on my way. They came in as rhyming proses in the beginning, rhyming prose, very Shakespearean in nature and very funny. And then once I got the hang of receiving these messages and getting them down accurately, then I began to get longer messages, more intense messages, less rhyming, more information, so to speak. And I've been able to uh, control it in such a way that I get up in the morning, most times early in the morning when it's still quiet and things haven't started yet, the world hasn't been turned on yet. And I do a brief meditation. And then I ask one of my spirit guides, primarily Osiris. Uh, and I ask Osiris, which is an aspect of my higher self now that I understand more about this. And he brings in whoever wants to deliver a message to me that day or messages. Or I can ask directly, bring in a specific entity, energy, being, someone who's passed. And most times I receive a message from them. And that's what I try and share with everyone. Most of them I share. Most of them are very much for everyone. Sometimes there's ones that are a little specific to me. Or there's more stories that, go with it. If there's an experience I had or an engagement with a person or a group of people or at a class where there's questions left unanswered, quite often I'll do a meditation the next day, and all of a sudden my higher self or energetics will give me the information. They'll say, well, what was missing yesterday in that conversation was X, Y, and Z, or the reason why you're having this experience is because of this. And it's stuff that you wouldn't know unless someone told you. So, and that's how it opens up, and that's how it unfolds. And the more you do it, like going to the gym, the stronger you get at it. And it's that simple. So it's a routine, and if I don't do it every day, I miss a few days, I feel almost, I don't want to use the word guilty, but I'm like, boy, I haven't put myself in that place, and you feel good. You feel good when you get these messages. You feel good when you're able to receive and disconnect from being human, and still be awake. You don't have to go to sleep to do this, and again, every day I never know who's going to come in unless I ask specifically. Yesterday, Sanat Kamara came in. Now, Sanat Kamara is a
good friend of ours.
Excuse me?
A good friend of ours.
A good friend, yes. Sanat, he's been around for a while. I never really didn't do any studying of Sanat Kamara. I really don't know anything about him.
He's known as the Logos for our universe.
Okay.
He is the being, he is the divine complement of Lady Venus. And he's kind of like the being that's in charge of all that goes on within our universe. And it was a couple years ago when I was I was having a bit of a rough patch, and you and Rosemary and I were here at the sanctuary. And we felt this really powerful, really intense energy. Remember that night?
Yeah, yes.
And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, guys, Sanat Kamara's here and he wants to come through. And I remember we recorded the message, and it was really powerful and really intense.
That was recorded. Oh, that was recorded, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have a recording of it. I recorded it on that little app that you have on the iPhone. So we've had, some of the most, I forgot that he came through me. We've had some of the most extraordinary beings. Rob, who would you say is one of your favorites to come through you?
Oh,
I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but come on.
I don't have a favorite, but the liveliest one is quite often in Saint Germain, because there's so many aspects of him, and there's funny aspects, serious aspects, scientific aspects. So he kind of hits all the marks, when I receive from him. It's never that same old message. Some of the other ones seem very structured in their message. It's always, like the collective of one. It's always about returning to oneness.
Mm-hmm.
The Galactic Federation or the Galactic Council, they're giving us instructions on what's happening above our atmosphere, what's going on above the earth. There's a collective of energies, beings, ships that are here to protect us. They're here to protect us from destroying ourselves primarily. That was probably their biggest mission in the last century, was to not let us destroy ourselves with nuclear weapons. because we came pretty close and they knew it. You know, when we set off a test or an actual bomb, it's felt throughout the entire galaxy. Nuclear fission is felt because everything is energy. So it's just not isolated to our planet. And they know that. They know how dangerous that
Yeah.
technology is when it's used the wrong way. It's great for making steam, which makes electricity, but that's it. It's no good for, for fighting wars.
Yeah.
And,
It's, it's just like how they said that torture has never been effective for training people. War has never been effective for trying to
oh,
control anything. The
we don't die. We just
message,
come back all pissed off.
the messages that we've been hearing, several of us here are in a community that's called Channeling Jesus. One of my favorites. I've made the most extraordinary friends and soul reconnections with people in these past 10 months now. And there's a lot of channel information that comes through that community. There's a whole section of that platform that is committed to, other channeled material. And there are two extraordinary women, Tina Spalding and Carol Morgan, who have two incredible platforms. And the messages that have been coming through lately is that we are in for an incredibly intense next 40 days. And so, the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to raise our vibrations, raise it through the foods that we eat, raise it through the exercise that we, provide for our body, raise it through what we're listening to, what we're watching, stop watching television, stop watching the news, stay focused, do your prayers, do your meditations, all that kind of very sage advice. It's really, really intense lately, you know. Something's brewing. Something's brewing.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce you to a woman who's become incredibly precious. Her name is Miriam. I just muted Rob Jr. Miriam is a woman that I met on this platform that's called Channeling Jesus. She is someone that approached me to do some mentoring work with me, but she's been as much of a teacher to me as I've been to her. She's extraordinary. And most recently, she was contacted by a collective. And I just had the incredible honor of being able to communicate with them almost an hour ago. So the guest that we had that was scheduled wasn't able to make it. So I asked if Miriam would come on and kind of share with us what this experience has been like of having, these beings come to her. And Miriam, welcome, my love. If you would unmute yourself and just say hello.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. Happy to share my story. This process is all fairly new to me. I really got into all of this probably back in July or August. And I've been working with Lynn since about the end of August. And it's all just unfolding so fast. The energy that came to me this past week, they are from Armadron Sea, and they are from the Salenka tribe, and they are beings that have reached out and said they want to communicate to me and through me. So I just started that yesterday and then channeled for Lynn tonight. So it's all very new.
Amazing job. Really, really amazing. And she's actually signed up to do the channeling training with Wendy at the beginning of November, which is like 2 weekends away. So that's going to be really exciting.
Mariami, did you say they were Andromedans?
They said Armadron Sea. That's what I heard.
Armadron, okay.
Armadron.
Mm-hmm.
They were such a beautiful presence. So about 15 years ago in a yoga class, I actually sustained an injury in my back that flares up every once in a while. And I noticed that when it gets colder, or if I sit in a wrong position for an extended length of time, it can tend to get a little aggravated, and I'm usually down for a couple days to a week. And I was in bed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And Friday morning into Saturday, I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And as I was coming back, I looked up. The ceiling of my bedroom was gone, and there was a spaceship. And I'm like, oh my God, am I hallucinating? And they said to me, we're healing your back, go back to bed. And I just smiled and I was like, okay. And I laid down and immediately passed out and went to bed. And I woke up the next day and I was like, whoa, there's no more pain in my body. This is really weird. So I just had this feeling when she was channeling tonight that they were the ones, and I said to them, were you the ones that came and helped me with my healing? And they said that they were. So I want you to know, I not only believe in miracles, but I definitely believe in aliens, and that was not the case for me. I was like, yeah, I believe in angels and I believe in beings that I'm channeling, but aliens are not real. Sorry. So
Well, that's how I was for the
hey,
longest time
Kristen,
until all this
welcome.
started. I never even watched Star Wars until last December. I swear, I rented it last December. I'm like, I have to see these movies because none of this ever resonated with me. Star Trek, when I was a little kid, I went in the other room. Couldn't this stuff just no way. It couldn't happen.
Right.
But now I'm talking to them every day, you know.
What are you going to do?
I know, and it's yeah, and the stuff that they tell me, I would never even know about. So like, there's no way.
So many years ago, there was a girlfriend of mine who announced that she had just been trained to read the Akashic records, and she was doing free readings, and did anybody want any? And I was like, oh my God, pick me, pick me. So by the grace of God, she got to do a reading for me. And then I was like, oh my God, I started telling all my friends, you have to have this woman do a reading. And I was just fascinated by the Akashic records. So then the woman who trained her was trained by a woman who wrote the book called How to Read the Akashic Records. Linda Howe, the author, was offering training. And it was going to be like 3 months, and it was going to be very expensive, and it was going to be intense. And there were like almost 50 of us from around the world. And I did this training. And then I had the chance to start teaching other people because I have a relationship with the records where that was one of the promises that I made this lifetime. So Rob had been rather resistant to this whole idea of the Akashic records. And he got a message one day that he was supposed to get trained. So I think somewhat reluctantly, and correct me if I'm wrong, he comes to me and he says, all right, fine. They said I need to get trained. And I'm like, okay, so come over. He came over here. We're in the records, and he's asking, and we live in this town of Huntington, a few minutes from each other. And every time I drive down the main street, I drive by the cemetery and I've said, I'm going to be buried there. I'm going to be buried there. I'm going to be buried there. And so Rob has always had this fascination with this family, the Paulding family, that was a very prominent family in this town. And they used to own a huge piece of property that was, unbeknownst to me, one of my favorite places in this sweet little town of Huntington, where there's mansions and there's castles and things like that on the North Shore of Long Island. So Rob comes in to do the training, and he asks about who he was in relationship to this family. And then what gets revealed is that the soul connection that Rob and I have is that I was a member of that family too. So we hop in his truck and we drive to the local cemetery, and there's my gravestone and there's his gravestone. And it was just an absolute trip to like have evidence. It's one thing to have someone go, oh yeah, you were this person or you were that person. But when you can find the evidence, it makes sense. I remember the day that Rob burst into the sanctuary 3 years ago this weekend. And I looked at this man and I'm like, how do I know this person? It was very much like what it was like when I met James. I was like, this person's a part of my soul family. Like, how do I know this man? So there's amazing stuff that shows up in the Akashic records. And Rob, you've had some really beautiful writings lately that have talked about the records.
Yeah, several messages I've received have said to go into the records, and not just me, everyone, to find out our history. The biggest, most common theme in the messages, and even the one I'm going to read tonight, is about rediscovering or discovering your divinity within, that we're all divine beings of light, of God, of spirit, of Christ, of whatever you want to align with. but we're spirit. The main thing is that we're a spirit, and we're here just having this experience. And we don't die, we just transition. We transition in and out of this meat suit, physical body, back to the other side of the veil, to heaven, to planets, whatever, however you want to, align it, whatever religion or modality you're working with. But this is just one experience. Being human, or being a human being, is just one channel out of 1,000. And we have many experiences. This is what I believe, that we have many experiences, many lifetimes. Aspects of us are people in history. So when Lynn talks about the history of Huntington, I moved here, and when I moved here 15 years ago, I felt that I belonged. Actually, my wife felt that she belonged in the house more than I did. I didn't feel comfortable in this house. To me, it kind of got spooky. I was always smelling body odor, and I'm in a room all by myself. And why am I smelling a man's odor? Like, it was just really weird stuff. And I would gut rooms and still smell it, and be like, why am I smelling body odor? I was sprayed the whole room with bleach, and it still smelled. I'm like, something's going on. So, and this was all unfolding over the last 15 years. 3 years ago, when I met Lynn, and I started to explain to her about the place I was living, the experiences, the smells, the history. And the more history I found out about the family that lived here, and they became famous during the American Revolution, and all the connections to the American Revolution, and different characters, different people. And the more I discovered it, the more coincidences there were. A young woman named Rosemary, who's 26, 27 years old. She's telling me all about a man that she'd been channeling named John Andre. Now, John Andre was part of the plot with Benedict Arnold during the Revolution. And I never met Rosemary. She lives out in Stony Brook, 30 miles east of here. And she's telling me about him. And I'm saying, well, wait a second. I'm getting messages about the guy who caught him. The guy who caught him and brought him to George Washington, and he was hung that night. I'm like, I know this guy. I'm maintaining a museum that John Andre used to live in. He was quartering there in Oyster Bay. So it's just so many overlapping coincidences.
George Washington actually spent a lot of time in Huntington.
He rolled through this town, and he rolled all through Long Island.
We happen to have a Masons Hall, the Freemasons Hall, one of the few here in Huntington. I mean, it's just, the stories start to weave, in and out. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's going to make quite an interesting set of books. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Which you're in the middle of writing it.
But the main thing is that the Akashic record, right, Lynn, that everyone goes into it. And she's not kidding when she says I was hesitant, and I've still been hesitant. And I can't tell you how many messages in the last couple of weeks to go into it. I guess I was kind of afraid. I didn't want to find out what I did to people, like how bad was I? I don't want to know how bad I was, like I'd rather try and forget that, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really mean anything. What we've done in the past, it was all part of an experience. And where we are now is at the end of this cycle, where everything that we've done in this past lives doesn't matter. Our karma is coming up to be zeroed out. No, starting with a blank slate. And as we enter the age of Aquarius, that's where we're at. So we're starting off with a clean slate, entering the age of Aquarius. That heaven on earth that's been promised in so many different religions is set to happen. And it's up to us to focus on what we want, create the reality that we want, only talk and only enunciate what we want, and never talk about what we don't want. And that's been, again, pretty consistent in all these messages as well.
There's one thing that I want to address that you said, Rob. People think that going into the Akashic Records means that they're looking into past lives, but I'd like to do a little reframing on that, because when you look into the Akasha, you're actually looking at simultaneous existences within a multiverse. So it hasn't happened in the past. It's all happening now. So when you go into the Akasha, you're actually looking at, it's almost like a mirror ball, and inside are all the lifetimes that you have that are occurring. And it's not as if it all gets wiped clean. What happens is you have to account, and you have to be held accountable for the thoughts you thought, the actions you took, the words you spoke, because every thought creates. So the advantage of being able to go into the Akasha is to find out why you have the patterns that you do, why you have the behaviors that you do, why you have the fears that you do, why you have the things that you love, why you have certain people in your life, why do you have friction, to be able to go in and heal those. Because if they don't get healed, those patterns must be repeated until a different choice is made. So someone said to me recently, I was in Oklahoma with JoAnn, who's here with us tonight, and she said to me, "Yeah, I don't want to deal with the Akashic because it just is dealing with the past, and that's not accurate. If you ask in the Akashic, what would happen if I do this, they'll show you the future. What would happen if I do that? What would happen if I stay married? What would happen if I get divorced? What would happen if I move to Oklahoma? What would happen if I move to Texas? What would happen if I stay in New York? What would happen if I do this? What would happen if I do that?" They'll show you, because all of those singularities, all of those paths, as divergent as they may be, already exist in a dimension. So that's what's available. Jesus talks about the records 7 different times in the writings that he did when he wrote the Course in Miracles. And it is a compendium of every aspect of our being. So it's not about finding out who you were or what you did like it was a bad thing. It's about finding out who you were and what you did so that you can course correct. Because sometimes you'll take a path that is longer, or one that takes you, further away from source, although we're actually all headed to source. So I just want to clear that up. A lot of people are like, "Oh, past lives, past lives." It's simultaneous. Does that make sense?
And just to add to that, so as explaining the Akasha, it's like the movie The Matrix, where it's a three-dimensional existence, where if you make that left, you run into this person, that person, the other person. If you make a right turn, you're going to potentially run into this person, that person, the next person. So it's just an unlimited set of options. For every decision you make, you're going to encounter these experiences or not. You can remove some and add others. And one of my recent messages said to go into the Akasha, not only to look at the past, but look at your future. And then when you look at your potential future, you can decide in advance, possibly, I want to shift and change. I don't want to end up there. I want to end up here. And it gives you the ability to do that.
Yep. You can say, what is my shortest path for ascension? What's my quickest way home? And you'll have answers. The next person that I just wanted to introduce, and not put her on the spot, but I'm about to, is my dear friend JoAnn Cooper. JoAnn just went through an extraordinary level 2 channeling training and has been working with one of my favorite archangels, which is Archangel Ezekiel. JoAnn, would you be willing to come online for a moment and just share with us what that journey has been like for you? Because I know it's been pretty extraordinary. You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have to admit, I am a reluctant channeler. I am kind of reluctant to a lot of this spiritual activity, to the degree that when it became formalized, my ego arose pretty strongly. So I do believe it was my mentor, Lynn, who insisted or admittedly suggested I take channeling. And so I did. And I was surprised that in the first workshop, you're asked who is coming through, and you get a pretty strong sense. It's revealed to you. And I was told Archangel Michael. And I spent that weekend channeling Archangel Michael. And then I took level 2 just this past weekend. And Metatron, who is the archangel that the instructor channels, said, "Are you sure you're channeling Michael?" And I said, "Yes, I'm fairly sure." And then they said, "She never really knows who she's channeling. We're the archangels, and we're here with her." And I was like, "Okay." So Ezekiel came forward as being predominant. And I have to say that in all the past life work that I've done with Lynn, or whenever she takes me into the place of planning, she always says, invite your guides in. I don't need to invite anybody. Ezekiel is always already there waiting at the table. So
The round table, yeah.
Yeah, at the round table. So he's been there. And I remember, honestly, I haven't ever said this, but there was, I can't remember the name of the singer, but when I was a little kid, there was a song called Ezekiel. And I loved it. I didn't know why, but I always was really attracted to that entity, Ezekiel, whoever Ezekiel was. So the other thing that Lynn introduced me to was floating, which is a salt. You go into these salt tubs or baths, and Metatron said last weekend that water is a great conductor for spirituality. If you're trying to bring in energy, it's just another conductor of energy, like anything. And it is true that since I've started floating, thanks to Lynn, I've been having amazing conversations with my Archangel family. And I get really direct messaging from them when I go into that black room and float naked,
Sensory deprivation. Yeah.
right? Everything else is gone. You're not even really aware of your body. And so it's been astonishing. And then just this week in our meditation group, one of our women is a bit of a provocateur, and she loves to challenge us. And she said, I think she said, well, actually, Lynn challenged her to channel, and then she challenged me. And so I had to channel Ezekiel for my friends. And for me, that was kind of a coming out party because I had only channeled, honestly, for my classes, the people I took the classes with. So it's been quite a journey, and I'm still astonished that they're here and that I hang out with archangels. Oh my God, it's astonishing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Rob, would you do us the honor of reading one of your channelings to us?
Sure. I think, just bear with me. I was thumbing through, and I always kind of ask, there's a few of them, and like, okay, which one am I going to read? My own mind, my ego part says, okay, read this. But then once I sit down and I start thumbing through, then they're like, nope, stop on this page. This is the message to start with.
It's like when you open a book to a page and there's a message that's exact.
Right. It so jumps out at you. So I was originally thinking we were going to talk to Sanat Kumar listen to what Sanat had to say. And I was pushed back a few pages to earlier in the week to a message through a new alternate guide I have comes in, and it's Hannah. I've yet to meet Hannah and any, but Hannah has been coming through along with those.
How do you, is Hannah's name a palindrome? Is it Hannah?
Yes.
It's so funny. I just got that impression. I was like, oh, how
spelled backwards, the same forwards and
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of the messages I had received early on when Hannah first came to me. She said, "Hi, I'm Hannah. My name is spelled the same, forwards and backwards. So you're bringing that up, and that's something that probably around March, right around the beginning of COVID, is when Hannah and Octavius came to talk to me. And Octavius told me he's here to help me write my book, and so I spoke to him at length. And then Hannah was I didn't really ask too much about Hannah, but she was always around. It's like, okay, now she's here, opening up for who wants to chat. So I was focusing on Osiris, but Hannah stepped in the other morning. And so I said, Hannah, please guide me this day.
Gorgeous. I
said, who would like to provide a message for me to share with humanity? And she said, you feel like they lined somebody up. It's like they put somebody in front of the microphone almost. And this is what I heard. Today, it is I, Brother Jesus, who is here with you to explain and expand upon the shift that is occurring upon your world and the entire galaxy. It is one of magnificent proportions. It is one of celebration. There are so many beings here to assist in this recognition of self, the recognition of the true divinity that is each and every soul, each and every blade of grass, and everything in between. There is no accident. There is no chance or coincidence. Everything was and is planned. Only the timing is malleable. Your world has entered ascension status, and things ought to occur that may be uncomfortable at times, but know that this is but a temporary condition, and it only requires that you and all trust in the outcome. A new earth is here and now, breaking free of the old paradigm and setting a new course with abundance for all. This is the celebration we have been speaking of, one that does not end. I can only say this: you are all divine beings of light with the ability to create your new reality. So plan wisely and expect great things. Clarify your thoughts, polish up your words, and release that which no longer serves you. This is a time of celebration. This is a time of manifestation. So do not create what you do not want. Love and blessings this day, Master Jesus.
Gorgeous.
So it's that simple. And this is what I open with. We only speak about what we want. We know there are things in this world that we might be afraid of or we're concerned for. Don't even bring them up. Just talk about the best case scenario and everything. Put out there what you want, create what you want, because Jesus is telling us, as well as many others, this is a very powerful time of manifestation and abundance. So if it's an abundance, you want it to be an abundance of good and not abundance of bad. All right. And it's that simple. The message speaks for itself.
That's gorgeous. Thank you so much. There's another young woman who recently went through some channeling training. She has her screen off, but Michele, if you're there, would you be willing to share with us what your experience of channeling Aphrodite has been like?
Oh, hi. I'll
Lovey.
turn it on. Hi.
Hi, honey.
I like to hide when you guys are talking so
I
I
know.
don't interrupt you accidentally. Um, okay, let's see. With Aphrodite, it actually started when I was 17 years old. And of course,
You're
this was
18,
back
so
in,
that was like a year ago, right?
huh?
You said you're 18, so that was about a year
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, exactly. Um, but this was back in 1997, and I was in a tiny little Texas town. So of course I didn't know what was going on. A couple years later, I started reading tarot and um, started doing some astral projection, actually, and still at the time didn't really understand what was going on. But all I knew was that for a while we could just like easily, just like by one thought, like switch back and forth. Um, and then I turned it off. And lately, I just had a, pretty traumatic experience happen, and everything just started swirling back in. And um, so I've been taking the channeling classes with Wendy, actually with JoAnn too. And really an understanding on how to control them, and talking more back and forth with them. And I still feel like there's others around that are just waiting to speak a lot. And just other things have been opening up to me. It's funny, I was talking to a friend earlier today, and we started talking about her children, and I don't I started getting messages, and I asked her if it was okay if I could share those, and she said yes.
Mhm.
She has her youngest daughter, and her name is Gemini. And I told her, I was like, you know, she is a twin. She is her brother's twin. And she said, you know what? They are the same height. They talk the same everything, and they're a year and 3 months apart. And I said, no, she was supposed to come down with him, but she wasn't ready. And she goes, and I named her Gemini because when she was pregnant with twins and she lost one. I said, no, the other twin wasn't supposed to come out. Gemini was very timid to come through. So the other soul came to help her.
Mm.
And now she is back with her twin. And it was amazing. And I thought that was pretty fun earlier today.
Beautiful,
Uh,
beautiful, beautiful,
uh,
beautiful.
and with Aphrodite, it just everything that I found out about my relationship with me and her has been amazing. So her and I are very connected, and
We come to find out that we've had these relationships with these ascended beings, and that there's an aspect of us that are deeply, deeply connected to them. I
Mhm.
had an incredible woman in England at Wendy, who channels Metatron, who's been our teacher. At her recommendation, she said, "Why don't you ask our friend Sandy Ingham to do a painting of Hathor. And the painting came through, and I was like, this is the most beautiful face I've ever seen in my life. And Metatron said, well, that's because, she is you. You're an aspect of that. And it was in a meditation recently that Hathor came through and she said, you are me. And I was like, yeah, that can't possibly be true. Like my ego's like, no, no, no. Because then my ego wants to go, well, if I am her, then I am a goddess, and all this ego stuff. But it's funny, Jesus is here. He has a message that he wants to deliver. So I guess we're hearing from him a couple times tonight. Is it okay with you guys if I bring him through? Because he's
Yeah.
Oh,
knocking at
please
the-
do. Please do.
Okay. All right, cool. Greetings, beloveds.
Greetings.
We are delighted with these gatherings that you do. Thank you, Master Robert, for your suggestions. Thank you for listening to the whisperings that came to you. For the souls that join together, understand that you are all indeed united. You are all indeed connected. There is conversation about physical DNA. Please understand that the spiritual DNA that runs through all of you is connected to a singular thread that is Source Creator. There is indeed a discipline that is necessary for all of you at this time to be very vigilant about the words that you speak, the thoughts that you think, the moment that you notice that each of you are stepping into a realm where the conversations that you're having and the thoughts that you're having would act to bring your vibrations lower. We ask you to immediately course correct. There has not been a time in this spiritual season where it has been more necessary for you than in this present moment for you to become very, very careful with the thoughts you are thinking, very, very careful with the words that you are speaking, beloveds, for every single moment, every tiny thought, every action, every word is manifesting more rapidly than before. There is a speeding up that has indeed occurred that is causing your realities to begin to meld and come together and collapse. We do suggest that you access your records. You all have the ability to do so. In this proposition, you will learn about the pieces of you that have been fragmented, the pieces of you that have been segregated, the pieces of you that contain the pain, the pieces of you that contain the darkness, the pieces of you that contain parts of your light that are meant to be woven back into the very fabric of your soul and the very fabric of existence. For in this amalgamation, in this redefinition, that entire aspect of quantum healing impacts the whole expansively. Each of you are light workers of extraordinary, extraordinary power and gifts. You know who you are that we are speaking to, dear ones. We ask now more than ever, turn to us, ask us for directions, ask us for recommendations. Would it be best if I did this? Would it be best if I did that? For we shall give you the shortcuts. We shall give you the way home faster. If you leave this to your egoic desires, if you leave this to the aspects of you that say, I will do that later, it is not that you are running out of time, beloveds, for time is a tool that has been put in place for your evolutionary growth. However, if there was ever a message that we could impress upon you, is that every moment, every instant is being regarded more intently than it ever has been before. We hope that you hear our message with love. We hope that you hear this message with the deliberate intensity in which it is being delivered. There is so much love for you. There is so much love that you are, and you forget, beloveds. And we are asking you to remember, we are asking you to seek out the place within yourselves where your own divinity shines so brightly. Do not look to the shadows. Do not look to the seeming past with anxiety and grief. Do not look to the seeming future with anxiety and fear. Live steadily within your own existence, for in that moment of stillness, in that moment of nowness, is where you will truly find your peace. You will truly find your sense of repose. And this is indeed an aspect of your beingness that is being called for more divinely. Our love and blessings are with you always, beloveds.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
thank you.
Look forward to speaking with you again. Wow, that was beautiful. That was really beautiful, as usual. It's amazing. It's just amazing who comes in to talk with us. I mean, you know, Yeshua twice, or Jesus, Yeshua, doesn't matter what you call him. It's the same energy. It's wild. Does anybody have any questions? Please. Does anybody have any questions we can answer tonight? It's a good night for it.
I have a question.
Okay, man. What do you got?
So you all were talking about going into the Akashic records to heal. How does that tie in with karma, and what can we do to heal, I guess, karma and restore balance?
Well, from what I understand it to be, when we go in, whether it's the Akasha or we just go into a meditation and things come up that don't serve us, that we don't feel good about, we wish they would have done different things, or they had different outcomes, or we made different decisions. We've been given the tool of transmutation. So it's about applying a transmuting energy and saying, I want to transmute that karmic experience. And I learned to use the violet consuming flame, to use the color of the violet light, which is the highest light in the visible light, highest frequency of light in our visible spectrum. And that's what we can see. Maybe animals can see higher and lower frequencies, but we go from infrared to ultraviolet. We don't see anything beyond those, right? We see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So that's what we see. And that violet is a high frequency light. And we're able to use that to transmute all the things that don't serve us and repurpose that energy, restoring it back to its original condition so that we can use it again and have another experience. And with our free will, we can choose to have an experience that we're going to be happy with and not regret, or we can apply it and then say, boy, I wish I didn't do that. But it's all up to us. And with that, it's all up to the words that we use, like Jesus just reinforced, you know, our thoughts, our words, our emotions, is to create positive things that we want, that we'll have no regrets over. And that's going to advance us through this and into the new paradigm with the least amount of karmic recompense, right? Recompenses due, you have to clear the karma. So it's a matter of transmuting all of that stuff before we get to the gate, or however you want to, you know, whatever term you want to use. so that when we enter this new reality, this new dimension, this new paradigm, nothing is stuck to us. We're going in blank slate, clean slate, empty canvas. It's up to us to create what we want now. And from what I understand, karma will not be part of the new paradigm. Karma is a tool or a system, an overlay that was applied to us in this past reality or set of realities or go-rounds or sequences. That's what I understand it to be. Lynn?
So Metatron says that karma doesn't exist. What we have is we have patterns that are created by the thoughts that we think, by the actions that we take, by the by the words that we speak. Are we speaking words of love? Are we, gossiping? Are we complaining? I'm guilty of both. I always mean well, and then sometimes my ego goes, yeah, but blah, 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 blah. So, I'll get on my high horse and I'm like, well, I'm never going to do this again. And you shouldn't do, my whole higher than holier and higher and mightier than thou crap, and then I'm like, oh God, look what I just did again, So I'm like the reformed smoker, right? What I understand about what's in the records is the ways to help us why am I such a complainer? Why am I such a gossiper? Why is it important for me to try and make myself feel better by going, well, this person did this and this person did that, as if I'm not that person? The records are the understanding of where that came from and how to course correct. So there's an incredible woman by the name of Teal Swan who talked about the Akashic Records. She has a 2-part video that you can find on YouTube. And she said, as you move up from the 3rd dimension to the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th dimension, you get to see all roads. What if you didn't have that conversation? What if you didn't complain about that thing? What if you didn't, hurt someone intentionally? What if you didn't kill that person? What if you didn't murder? What if you didn't rape? And then in our life review at the end, we get to see what the consequences have been of all the choices that we make. And then what happens, from my understanding, is that we get to repeat it over until we make a different choice. So karma isn't like you were bad and therefore you're going to come back as a grasshopper. It's that there are choices, that free will, that choice that we have at every moment to say, here's what would happen if I choose this. Here's what would happen if I choose this. Here's what would happen if I choose that. Like tributaries on a river, and that we get to make different choices. And sometimes it's more like they go up, So here's like the lowest ego choice, and here's the highest soul choice. And where are we going to make our choices, along the way? So I don't know if that answers your question. I'm still a little groggy. Any other questions that anybody has, you can put it in the chat. I'm here on Facebook. Hi, Deb. Deb is there. My sweet friend Jason, who I knew from years ago. Jason, so cute, he says, I am you, and what you see is me. That's so true. Deborah says, I hope you recorded this. We did, Deborah. Rob, you want to share anything else? You want to do another beautiful little reading with us?
I'm looking to find one that.
There's Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Cal.
Welcome.
I got one this.
Deborah said she's waving at us all.
A chance to polish it up. I wrote it. I didn't have a chance to do any spelling corrections or anything or punctuation, because when I receive my messages, there's no punctuation. Sometimes I think I hear a word one way and it comes in a different way, or I have to rephrase a sentence. But this morning I received a message with the intention, I set the intent with every message or with anything. You set the intent, and then from there, your higher self knows what you're looking for. And then they help to give you that answer if you stay out of your own mind. So I like on Sunday mornings and Saturdays to say, okay, I need messages to give to humanity or use on a Sunday night for this gathering. So this morning, this is what came in. So like I said, I didn't have a chance to polish it. So if I stumble, just bear with me. And this time Osiris was there. I asked for Osiris this morning since Hannah had her opportunity yesterday. So I said, Osiris, can you hear me now? He said, always. I said, what can be conveyed this day that I should share with humanity? He said, that's a tall order. Beings of all kinds are with you and all humanity now, just waiting for the creek to rise. As this occurs, more and more souls with a desire to explore and expand upon their truths will begin to rise. And as they do, they will begin to flow harmoniously back together, thus creating a swift current, which will then lead to an ocean of truth. Vast is that body of water, vast is the knowledge and connection to all that is, the universe, the creation, the earth, Mother Gaia. Mother Gaia is delighted and excited for this news and long-awaited time of realization, a return to harmony in all things as the establishment of balance becomes the new norm and no longer the desired quest. You, my dear, my friend, have come a long way in a relatively short period of your time, and it is wonderful, for as you do, so do others, and that expansion, the Fibonacci sequence, begins to occur. As it does, so much light is added to the mix by your simple recognition of the truth. With each effort put forth by you and all to teach another has brought forth this rapid transition. Expect great things. It is only a matter of time now, so be excited and be prepared to smile. The old paradigms are falling away faster than anyone could imagine. The age of Aquarius is a metaphor for the cleansing that is to occur. And what better way than with the use of the life force that is water? It is the perfect vehicle from which all life emerges, for it contains the chi, the energy, the essence of consciousness, and the connection to all. This is your moment to shine, dear one. So dust off that vehicle and start to fly. There is nothing holding you down or holding you back. So simply connect with us, your higher selves, and experience the joy that awaits you and all humanity now. Blessings and love this day, the collective of one. So that was the message that came in this morning.
Gorgeous.
And the collective of one is there to guide us back into oneness, to remove these fractalizations, all these aspects and experience of us, and bring us all of humanity back to that common thread that we talked about earlier, that is spirit, that is source. And
I had this beautiful message come through me a couple weeks ago. There's a technique that I teach that I now call psychic surgery, and it allows people to take energy that's been kind of trapped within their energy field, whether it's physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, and release it and literally return it back to source. We're meant to be channels. We're meant to have, energy move through us. Emotion is energy in motion. And that every time we, quote unquote, turn something white or release it, or we're returning all of it back to God. And God's like, thank you. Um, each of us were given, the free will and the mind of God to create whatever it is that we want. And, I think he's just very patiently waiting for us all to come home. I'm ready. I don't know about the rest of you. It's almost 9 o'clock. I want to thank all of you for being here. Rob, I love you. Miriam, Michele, JoAnn, you guys are my heart. Thank you to Leslie, and thank you to Edna, and thank you to Isabel. And I know you're not Frank, but I don't know who you are, but thank you for being here as well. Bye.
Oh, that's Susan.
Hey, Susan.
That's one of my sisters.
Hey, Susan.
And
nice to meet you.
I don't think you've met her yet. And
I have to change my my name on there. I didn't have time before I got on.
And thank you to everybody that joined us on Facebook. It's been wonderful to have you. Love you, Deb. Love you, Kristen. It was so delightful to have you here, my love. Kelly, Jason, all of you that were here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're here every Sunday. We have an incredible roster of guests that are coming. I thank you all for being here. My life is committed to being of service to spirit, and I'm learning every single day. Mwah.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
And I'll post these messages that I read tonight on the Sohmalife page. And if you have any questions, please just put them in there. If you have any questions about the messages or anything that it opens in you, I'll be glad to, to respond when I see them, and come next week with more questions. That's what we're here for. This is not a one-sided operation. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.